Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Debbie. I'm from NDIS Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides, and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Today, I have Min as my co-speaker, along with a brand new co-host, Sim. Welcome, Sim.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here.
Yeah, fantastic to have you. Now, Sim, we are doing a repeat episode, Ask Us Anything. So we've got some new questions or comments that have come in from people over the last couple of months that we've collated. And we've asked Sim to ask us these questions, and we will attempt to answer them as best we can.
Okay, so we have Nikki here who asks, I work in the disability sector and I'm looking to advance to the next step. I see a high demand for disability and I'm looking into SIL house investment. I don't know where to start or what is necessary to be able to own a SIL house for my disability clients to live in. I'm hoping you can help me with some information before I make the leap in investment.
I think she's asking about how to begin the first house as a SIL participant, I guess. Debbie. This has always been a challenge, Debbie. We talked about this in the video podcast with Tanya Gomez a while back. And she said, how do they, it always starts with a awkward, set up their family home and they get their participants in. But to answer this question though from Nikki, I mean, how do you start? Well, you got to have your participants ready in advance first, I guess, before you start putting them in. And you actually apply for a house, and the land will allow you to run a business of care provision from there.
Or it sounds like she might want to invest.
And buy a house.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to buy a house, an older house, then buy it, modify it, make it disability friendly. And then obviously the children living there, obviously, Debbie, I think, living there as well, which also presents its challenges. But then also bringing the participants in one by one to run her business from. I think that's what the question is asking, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. She just, I guess, wants more information. I would want to add that a SIL house doesn't have to meet any kind of requirements like SDA does, but best practice would be that it has some modifications to suit people with different levels of disability. So yeah, modifications. Ideally, what we're seeing is sort of co-living properties coming onto the market. They're ideal because generally each bedroom has its own bathroom, ensuite. And another thing I'm just thinking of, Min, is what about all those distressed SDA homes that investors have not been able to tenant because they may be in an oversupplied area? Might that not also be a potential option for someone like Nikki who wants to just use it as a SIL house?
Yeah, well, without knowing Nikki's financials, I mean, I'm guessing she's a newbie in this industry. She wants to buy a cheap SIL house. So the selling vendor of those SDA houses will want premium dollar at around about $1 million to get out what they are. So I don't think she'll be able to afford it.
Possibly, although there are some that are coming on that are maybe priced a bit lower because they are distressed stock, a stressed house.
As Debbie also knows, support workers don't have very much money to afford it.
Yeah.
So anyway, next question.
Yep. So next is Paul. He asks, I have an SDA property in Townsville, tenanted with 2 participants. I want to change providers and possibly sell the property.
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. If there are 2 participants, he's doing quite well in an area like Townsville, which is oversupplied with properties. I'm not quite sure why he wants to change providers. This could be an issue. Firstly, Paul, you would need to look into your lease agreement with the SDA provider and your out clause and why, what the terms of the lease are and whether you can get out at this time. And keep in mind that the property would need to be unenrolled by that provider and then re-enrolled by a new provider. So there's a few tricky bits there that would need to be navigated, and possibly sell the property. Well, if you're looking to sell it, then would it not be better to just sell it as is with the current provider?
I agree. Why rock the boat?
Yeah.
Just leave it as it is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Next question.
Next is Ben. He says, hi, we would like more information about how all this would work, as I have an uncle that requires high physical support, and I hear people need more houses with HPS. I'm also looking to retire early, so would like a high-yield property investment to help. I am potentially looking to set up my investment portfolio with my parents, but not sure yet. I would like the best return on investment possible.
Well, this is a open-ended question with lots of answers. I guess he's explained to us why he wants to do it. But Ben, do you really understand SDA market itself? You know, HPS, FAIL, robust, location factors, vacancy risk, lending risk. There's a lot here to be discussed. And if you want to learn more information, I guess listen to all our podcasts. I mean, and by the way, Ben may not be aware of our podcast series. So this kind of question, you got to really talk to the experts, and they're far and few between, to be honest. And the experts don't have time to explain to you how it all works. I guess really read information, understand it, listen to podcasts, listen to vodcasts on YouTube. It's a very complex sector, Sim. But wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you've been with us for 6 to 8 months now, Sim. And what have you seen how complex this world is?
Yeah, because everything is almost changing every couple of months, and you have to be up to date with the updates. And I think you guys do really well to keep on top of it. So
the average, Debbie, would you agree here? The average investor takes 3 to 5 months to absorb and let it all sink in, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It won't take a few days or a few weeks. It'll take months to understand all this. Yeah. So I guess everyone out there, like every other investor out there, do your own due diligence, talk to the right people around you, your lawyer, your lender, your accountant, read stuff online, and just go from there. I mean, that's all we can say to someone who asks these questions. How do I learn more about this? Just look online, I guess, yeah.
Okay. So next is Julie. She says she works for a company who owns several old buildings used for aged care. They're now looking at options of what they could do with the properties and are seeking more information about SDA. The original property was built in the 60s, with the additions being made in the 70s and the 80s.
This is more of an aged care topic / maybe going to, she's talking about going to.
Yeah, well, looking at what they could do with the properties and are seeking more information about SDA. So, look, they're old properties. So for a start, that adds a whole another level of issues. If you were to do a refurbishment on
Jumping in?
Yeah.
The key word here is old buildings, not old houses.
Yeah.
So an old building means facilities, Debbie.
Yeah, true. So probably not relevant to the SDA world, really, depending on the property. Very much this would need to be analysed on an individual case-by-case basis as to what these buildings are. But to do refurbs to meet SDA requirements, whatever the dwelling type is very expensive and usually not feasible.
And the government did this to force people to build brand new. Not the renovations, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give you a rough number, to renovate an old house, which is older than 8 years old, as of today, costs about almost...
Well, 400 to 600,000 plus, depending on the level you're doing it, whether it's to IL or HPS and how many tenants.
It's a minimum spend criteria. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot of money to spend. Is it not maybe not worth doing a knockdown rebuild?
Yeah.
But these are old buildings used for aged care, I think this is a very different situation. So it would need to be analysed.
Cool.
As is.
Moving on.
So Amelia says, could I have more information about the program, how it works, and possible investment opportunities?
Oh, yeah, listen to our podcast, read our website, download our ebooks. There is so much information that you need. But yeah, look, as we say to everyone initially, the program is great, but it only works when you've got a good property and you have tenants in place, and that's the investment opportunity, finding a good property in a good location so you get tenants in so you can make money out of it. That's the investment side of it. There's so much more to it, though, to understand as an investor. So, yeah, look, we have a lot of information available freely on our website. We have, 300 podcast episodes? Just start researching. Start learning and reading and understanding more.
And I want to say a bit of careful consideration here. A lot of content online from other websites, they are old content. Even ourselves, our websites are being updated as we speak, which we know, Debbie, our content is even 1, 2, 3 years old, and we have to update our stuff as well. So,
and certainly podcast episodes that go back 3 years, there's probably quite a bit of information in those that we've recorded that is no longer relevant.
Because markets and areas do change. So, example, Debbie, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, in places where Townsville was all cheap, Logan and whatnot in Queensland, and then now all of a sudden it's oversupplied now.
Yeah, well, it was everybody saw that was an opportunity and everybody went in. Oops.
And things changed, like construction timeframes, which post-COVID, weather, cyclones in certain areas or flooding, labour shortages, those things do affect product delivery. And when product delivery is delayed, then you fall behind with your presence in the marketplace. So
yeah,
that's how it is.
Okay, so we have Ryan here. He says, I am looking to see if there are any houses in the market for investors looking to purchase an SDA property, and to also understand how the expected rental yields are calculated.
You can look on Housing Hub. There's some stuff for sale there, I think. Yeah, there is. Our website, and just a property, has some built houses that are empty or filled up. Where else, Debbie, would you go to look for built SDA listing? I don't really know where to go to find them, hey?
Yeah, I think that even on realestate.com you will find maybe some.
But it's hard to filter them and find them.
It's difficult to filter. So, yeah, it's hard. We do have a few. I've heard of other investors purchasing a built and tenanted property and getting a good deal. So there are some organisations out there selling them, but we don't probably we should keep a closer eye on our competitors because we're doing that as well. But yeah, there's not a lot of people selling a lot of good individual houses because if it's a house that's doing well and it's got a good income, it's not likely to go on the market anytime soon in this new SDA industry.
But to answer the question of expected rental yields, how would you answer that, Debbie?
Look, it all depends on the funding that the tenant has in their plan, and that can vary hugely. So we've talked about this ad nauseum before. There are marketers out there quoting $200,000 returns on a property. We're far more conservative. You need to really look at what the maximum is, what the minimum is, as in what the maximum funding a participant may have, what the minimum funding a participant may have, and go somewhere in the middle. I know you probably have a different formula to work on.
My formula, Debbie, has always been, and I'm pretty much accurate here, whatever the maximum number is, call it 200,000. All right, call it that. Then 2/3 that. Well, no. Actually, no. Sorry. Let me rephrase this. I've always said, whatever the maximum is, halve that. So now we're 100 grand. And halve that again, so that's 50,000. So that's your first anchor tenant. That's number one. Okay, so that's one formula there. And two, the second guesstimate is 2/3 of your max. Is your gross income for when you have two tenants. So that, which is 140 gross. So net is 110, 100. That's the ultimate end bottom line for the two tenant residents in the house. If you want to go the realistic anchor tenant, it's half and half of the two, which is 100.
And just another note on the yields, we always estimate expenses to be around 25% of the income. And we found that to be pretty much accurate across the board all the time. So that's your net, 25% off that gross income, which is the tenant's funding. And that's sort of going to give you a good ballpark figure.
And jumping in there, the average cost for SDA providers is 15% average, plus rates, water rates, council rates, insurance, maintenance, vacancy. So there's your 25% right there. 15 plus is 25%. Yeah.
Okay. So next we have Monica. I would like to find some information on purchasing SDA investment property or supplying my own land to build an SDA property as we are builders.
Okay, well, I'm going to go straight into the second part of that question, supplying my own land to build an SDA property. We are doing a lot of work with builders, with other developers, with other landowners who want to build an SDA property. The first thing that needs to be considered is the land suitable. Is it in a good location? Is the physical block actually going to work to build an SDA on it? Is it flat? Is it close to amenities? There's all those things. And then where does it go from there? I mean, there's so many other things to consider.
the data, the design, the desirability, DDD.
And connecting with the right people to do so, the designers, the SDA assessors, the right, well, you are builders, so you'd need, good architectural plans done and a good SDA assessor, town planner to get the property done. But really, the most important thing is getting out the 3Ds, as we always say, design, data, desirability, right before you actually start.
Okay. Next, we have Nitesh. Hi, I'm building an SDA high physical support house in Largs North, Adelaide, which is expected to be finished in 3 months' time. I would like to understand the potential tenancy options, and I'm also open to selling depending on the returns.
I'm surprised you didn't figure out the tenancy options before you bought the house. But at least you've asked the question, right? Even if it's 3 months for completion. Well, if you want a written report, our team, our SDA research team, Debbie, can do that report, Debbie.
Absolutely, a tenancy mix to give you an overview of all the different potential incomes that you might get.
I think it's about $700-800 to do that report. Yeah, roughly, I think.
And also open to selling depending on the returns. Yeah, good point on selling a property. Now, if you don't tenant it, if you don't get tenants in it initially and you still want to sell it, you're probably going to have to sell it at quite you're not going to make a lot of money on it, if anything, basically.
Jumping in, Debbie, I'd say whatever the cost price was, give or take $50,000.
Yeah. However, if you do get tenants in it, then really the sale price is far more based on the income. So, yeah, selling depending on the returns. If you get good tenants with good funding in place, you can probably sell it for a nice sum.
I hope you are currently engaged to a SDA provider who is out there marketing to the SIL providers to line up your first anchor tenant participant in the first 3-4 months, hoping that that's the case. If not, you better start now because it will take you a year, I reckon, after completion to get 2 tenants in.
Yeah.
Which means vacancy of 6 to 7 months, you have negative $5,000 a month.
Or
cash flow.
6 or 7, depending on what you borrow.
Maintenance. And then one tenant barely breaks even. So you may have to reconsider the whole selling depending on the thing because you may not have tenants in there or only partial tenants. So you may, if you want out, think about your plan B, plan C scenario. So plan A is to build it and fill it up. I know that. But plenty of investors around Australia have been in your boat, which is, but what if it doesn't fill up? What if you only get one tenant? Then that changes everything, obviously. You might be lucky and get one SIL provider goes, hey, I'll buy it off you because they have listings ready. But that's a very rare outcome.
Okay. Our next query is from John. He says, I'm looking to register as an SDA provider and invest in 1 or 2 SDA properties in Queensland as soon as possible. Since I'm new to the industry, I'd love to understand how your team can assist me throughout the process. Could you provide me guidance on SDA registration, property selection, compliance, and any key considerations for a first-time investor? I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss how we can work together.
Debbie, have you come across this person via a phone call yet or email?
I don't know that we have, no.
Okay. So, how would you?
Okay. So, John, you're looking to register as I just wanted to say, by the way, that I've actually changed the names of the people on this. You're looking to register as an SDA provider and invest in 1 to 2 properties. Is there any specific reason why you want to register as an SDA provider? Because you don't need to invest. You can just invest and hand it over to another SDA provider to manage the property. So that's the first point. Generally, we recommend to people, unless they're going to have, want to be very hands-on with the management of the property and maybe they have a little bit of experience in the disability sector, 1 or 2 properties probably isn't worth becoming a registered provider for. There's a lot to go through. There's a lot of, compliance and auditing. It takes a couple of years. It's expensive. So maybe I would say worry more about just investing in the properties. In terms of property selection, and you're talking about Queensland, be careful because most of Queensland is heading towards an oversupply. So you would very much need to be careful on where you were to look at investing, whether you were going to buy a property that's built, whether you were going to buy a property off the plan, whether you are going to develop something yourself on land that you own or will be sourcing. So there are a lot of things to find out about where you're at with this. And we would love to definitely help you through that process.
So our research analytics team can also provide you the property selection and location and considerations advice if you want written advice there as well. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so next is James. He says, "Hi Min, confirming I have 2 clients who want to buy or build their own SDA. Location is Ferntree Gully or within 20 minutes of that. Seeking 2 SDA apartments or land to build a duplex, 2 adjoining villas, so they can share carers. Let me know if you have anything."
So this is a husband and wife inquiry referral from a support coordinator in Sydney, but the location of the participants are in Melbourne, Ferntree Gully. So they're looking at Baronia, as in 2 apartments side by side, HPS, or villas or house, 2 houses side by side in Ferntree Gully or within that region there. We do have a couple of builders who can definitely go out there and source land and deliver a build product for this husband and wife couple who want to live separately as 2 side by side participants and 2 different dwellings. Obviously, the challenge here has been they actually live in their current home, sim, and they need to sell that to cash out to be able to get their finance. Well, you can get pre-approval subject to sales, obviously, to get their finance ready. But no one's going to go out there and buy and build anything, develop and produce a product for them unless they are cash or finance ready. So there's the catch-22 there. Would you have finance? No. When do we get it? When I sell my house. So they're living in the house, but they can't move out to actually build a new home. So it's catch-22. Solution here is to actually look for a temporary accommodation somewhere for a year or so, get pre-approval subject to sale of the house, and then go from there. But anything's possible here. But the finance is critical here. And this is a owner-occupier, Debbie, 2 owner-occupiers, so their finance will be much more lenient and easier than a normal investor. And as we've discussed in the past, investors need to go through a lot of serviceability, income, assets, credit risk, all that kind of stuff. But with the owner-occupiers for NDIS, they're more stable, more easy because it's government funded backed, because these are participants with already funding in place already. So it's an easier loan to approve because they have funding coming through from the government. Yeah.
So next up, Michael asks, "I need to get an SDA home for my daughter who is a child and 4-bedroom house in Epping, close to the hospital and school."
Too young.
Yeah, so Michael, SDA is only approved for adults, people over 18. So if you wanted an SDA home, you'd need to wait until your daughter is of that age, get SDA funding in the plan, and look at getting a house under the Appendix H, which would be for the family to live together with the SDA participant. But given that your daughter is, I don't know how old, you didn't state how old your daughter is, SDA is not applicable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Vanta says, Vanta has a son she's looking to build an IL house for in Bathurst. She had plans but has to downsize due to the budget. She is already speaking with Paul Grant, who she found through our podcast. She wanted to know if there was any way you could pre-buy designed SDA plans, or would she need to start the process again? She would like to know if, A, we know any SDA architects who we could assist and what their service would cost. B, if we know of any builders in Bathurst.
Trying to buy a pre-designed plan you can't really copy and paste of another builder. That's called plagiarism. And it must be within 10% differences of the original plan to the new plan. So you can copy, but you must change it. The average architect costs around $14,000 to $17,000 for an architect or designer to custom design a house for SDA. That's my experience so far, Debbie. Obviously, drafters who work inside building companies will charge a smaller fee for that. But that's part of the whole process with builders, yeah. So if you want to get your own plan, then it has to be custom designed from an SDA architect. So yeah, we do have a architect, Debbie. A designer, sorry, Debbie.
Absolutely, yeah. Builders in Bathurst. Bathurst is over on the other side of the Blue Mountains from Sydney, out west. I'm sure that with our contacts in Sydney, we could potentially find someone, but we haven't worked out in that area previously.
But Debbie, in theory, if it's designed properly, assessed and pre-certified,
the plans, any builder
can really build, as long as they follow the guidelines, yeah.
Yeah, although you'd want to ensure that they, like you would always do anyway, make sure they're a very good builder and ensure that the SDA assessor is going to be working closely with them to make sure that the construction goes according to the plans. Because that's where things can go wrong.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie.
Okay. Gary says, I am looking at purchasing an NDIS SDA home as an investment, preferably a new build house and the land designed to meet the SDA certification. Is this something your company offers?
So most of our builders come to us with their land pre-packaged up, ready to go. So yeah, we do. That's what we've been doing for the last 5 years. If you do come across a block of land that could be consideration to be purchased, then talk to us. We can refer you to an assessor to inspect this, look at the site to see that it's worthwhile being purchased. That's probably the most economic way to do it. You choosing your own block of land, knock down, rebuild even. Yeah, Debbie, let's talk about knock down, rebuild. I would much prefer new investors look at knock down, rebuilds rather than just buying a house land.
These days, yeah, because the house and land package, the ones that we're still seeing offered out there are in the greenfield estates. They're not in good areas. You don't want to be going there now. There is the odd package maybe coming along that might still be worth considering. So yeah, definitely we could assist you there. But the way that the market has morphed so quickly in the last 6 months, really knock down, rebuild in the mid-ring areas is the way to go.
My advice to anyone who is in that situation where, hey, he's asking the question, hey, do you have any house and land packages to sell? Let's use some common sense here, folks. Where's the nearest hospital? There isn't none? Oh, okay, big cross. Where's the nearest train station? Oh, there is none? Oh, that's a big cross. Is it in a brand new estate with lots of houses being built around it? Yes, it is. Okay, well, there's another big cross. No one is out there saying, go build a new SDA house in a brand new land estate. No one says that.
Not now.
The only one that does that is actual builders. That's where they make the money.
Mm.
The path of least resistance is dropping out new build on a block of land in a large estate full of land. No one does that anymore. That formula has failed. So don't look at builders' websites or real estate agents who are putting packages in front of you because it ain't working out there. Right, Debbie?
No, it's not.
It's failing miserably. So as the old saying goes, if, what's the... Sorry, you can't read my mind, but what's the definition of crazy or
is repeating the same
thing.
Mistake over and over again?
Yeah, and that's what everyone's doing. Everyone's buying new house and land packages in new estates 40 minutes outside of a metro, and it's all empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, we do occasionally have some good stock that comes to us from a builder in a good location. So yeah.
And they would be criteria, tick, tick, tick.
Yep.
And it's built and it's filled up,
or could still be ready for construction, but it is a provider or participant led product.
But they're very rare.
They're very rare.
Yeah.
These days, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. And just like that, we're at our last question for today. Chanel says, I need urgent advice regarding renovating a property for SDA registration. I am currently selling property in Brisbane, downsizing, but could keep this property if there is potential to modify it appropriately. My partner has approval for SDA funding. I also have another property nearby that could be modified.
Debbie, this is your query or lady in our suburb here.
This is a lady I spoke to a few weeks ago who has 2 properties very close together in a good
near our office too.
Good location in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Neither of them are particularly suitable. Firstly, they're both on hills. One of them potentially could be renovated, but it is a 2-story property. So they would need to have elevator installed, quite a lot of work gone into making that suitable. And in addition, as well as the cost of doing that minimum refurb cost. The other property, she was thinking potentially she could maybe do a granny fat in the backyard. She knows that the council approvals for that would work. However, the width of the property is the entire width of the block pretty much. So you would not have access down the side. The house would need to be raised. This is an old Queenslander, by the way. The house would need to be raised to provide thoroughfare through to the back. Both very difficult problems, really. So I've actually told her to reach out to an SDA assessor and see if they were able to determine whether there was any possibility in either of these properties being modified to SDA, HPS, by the way, certification.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did it go, Sim?
Pretty good. It was a lot of information that I learned from you guys today, I think.
Well, that's good. And hopefully there'll be lots of other people that can benefit too.
I think as we continue with all these Ask Us Anything sub-series that Matt began and we're now continuing on after his left. This is number 3 or number 4 now?
This is 3. I think this is
I just start doing this. We can start adding it to our website as a special page. Yeah. And in fact, you know what? You know the FAQs page on our website? I have one of these at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we love your questions. We love answering. We love talking about it, as you know. So please just continue to throw us curly ones. Ask us anything.
Yeah. Sim, thank you so much for coming on our show for the first time.
Thanks for having me here.
Look forward to having you being a presenter next time.
We'll see to that.
Just use ChatGPT to get all the answers of it.
You still need the human touch though.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Sim.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.